your camera. And just for you to know that this will be shared online on our YouTube channel. So yeah, if you don't feel like speaking or being seen, like don't like just write in the chat and I can read your questions or remarks. Good. Then hello. Hello, Chris. Okay, so let's start. Yeah, so maybe first maybe most of you who don't necessarily know the community. So we are design and critical thinking. We are a small community. We are like international. We have people from all over the world, and we do different kind of rituals and meetups and discussions, and the goal is to bring a critical perspective about design and design practices. And we do have people from very different fields in design, and not necessarily like only UX designers or service designers, but we have people from very different design domains and disciplines. And yeah, and generally speaking, the idea of these communities is to create a sense of collective and shared understanding of what we do and what works, what doesn't, where we want to go, these kind of things. So we are doing each year, like for the past 3 years now, we do a community project. It's a little exercise where we do invite like the design and critical thinking community and the broader design community to participate in what we call the state of design, which is most of the time a critique of the current design trends or practices or rituals or discourse and narratives and stuff like that. And this year we invited as well people to think about what would be the future of design. So it's one of the first time we do this format, and this comes mainly because the past years we've seen that okay, it's good to make a case about what is not working now today, and what could be other ways to do it. But we wanted to go like the next step and invite people to think about okay, what should we do? What should we try differently, or what could be interesting ways to tackle some of the things we see that are not working. So yeah, basically that was the idea. And in January we invited people to participate in this project, and most participants had about 2.5 months to complete a submission. It could have been a written essay, or a small project, an artifact. And the artifact is, especially for the future part, the idea is to have something tangible with which people can interact with, and which serves as a statement about what could be a potential future for design. So today, the idea is to do two things: is to review or pass through some of the submissions, give you like kind of an overview of what are the things that what is the narrative, and what are the themes and ideas that the participants submitted. And we have with us today Vinish and Lee with this fourth parable handle to talk about their specific contribution. And after that, if you want to, we can try a small exercise. We call it like island mapping. That could be fun to invite you to think, and would be also like an excuse to discuss about the future of design. Good. So, is there any questions so far? Good. So, I will share my screen and quickly and briefly go through. So I will also share the link to our website if you want to read some of the contributions later. You can do it. So feel free to go to our website. It's where all the contributions has been published. Sorry, wrong link. So this year we had five contributions, some of which are basically like about the state of design and bring a perspective about the current system and how it works. And two of them are, one of them is really about the future. It's basically, it's an artifact. This is what we will see briefly, the ferrofluid brain interface, which is a really interesting concept. Is an artifact about how design could contribute to a new form of a new medium, a new way to create interactions with people. And the other one is a fun, speculative exercise that Diana made, which is in between the state and the future of design. And the idea is to discuss about today, but through future lens. So I will start with Vinish work, and maybe Vinish wants to, like, when you want to jump in and explain a bit how this, how did you came with this idea, what you wanted to say in your piece. Don't hesitate to interrupt me. Yeah, so Vinish's work contribution is called Design Did Not Show Up for Work Today. And it's a very, very, I would say, emotional and storytelling way to discuss about like the structure in which designers work and how this impact the way we do create interaction mediums where we inadvertently or by accident create harm, or like we can call it like dark patterns, but it's not really like necessarily like that. But some of the negative externalities or consequences of the way we do perform design in most organizations. So maybe, Vinish, if you want to talk about your work and yeah, what you wanted to say about design.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Kevin. Hi, everyone. I'm Vinish Garg, joining from Chandigarh, India. And it's quite late here. And I know Kevin, and I have been following their work for around 3 to 4 years now. And it's very thoughtful. And there is a lot of variety in how we build our discussions for our work. Okay. I work as an independent contributor for around 15 years now. My work lives on the intersection of design, product marketing, content, and everything that an organization is trying to do, plan, or achieve in their goals. Okay. And I have a certain approach and a certain outlook to see and evaluate or identify the organizations or the teams with whom I prefer to work. Okay. Um, so Kevin's project, this call for contribution gives us an opportunity to be more honest about ourselves, our hidden aspirations, or sometimes frustrations that we 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 are not able to apply our skills the way we want to do because of different constraints in the teams or organizations where we get a chance to work with. Okay. And so whenever I get a chance to reflect on the relative successes or failures in my work in last 15 years, I often attribute those instances to the kind of conversations we build in the organizations or teams. Okay. And most often, as I generally say in my meetings, that many digital products, regardless of the size and scale of their operations, die because of lack of conversations for the context, for the right time, at the right language, with the right people, for the right reasons. And so that gives me an added incentive to frame a dialogue where design, not as a skill or as a team or function, design itself as a practice can speak to organization that what makes a poor experience, what makes a questionable experience or a questionable decision or a questionable policy in an organization. Okay, so that's the kind of backstory. I do not know. I mean, I often think that whenever we come across a certain organization, a certain experience, certain interaction with a digital product, do we really have people in the organization who lack the right skills or who do not have the right intentions to make it a really positive experience, right? That's generally not true. So what makes a poor experience? Why do we consistently see broken experience in digital products, whether it's for policy or interaction, lack of clarity, missed opportunity in their content or message, broken promises? Why does it happen? Is it a lack of seriousness on part of organization? Is it misplaced priorities? So my idea of this conversation was to make leaders or the organization itself think that why are we why we cannot be more serious and make products with more love and care for whatever the goals are. Okay, what stops us to do better? It's certainly not technology. Okay, and it's certainly not capability. It's something else. It's something hidden that I often struggle to define. What exactly is missing? Okay, so the whole idea was to write this kind of a dialogue form contribution to this project was to think and make others think, or let all of us collectively think that why do the organizations not care? Why do they lack seriousness or the intensity? Why don't all of us see the stakes involved in the kind of work that we see happening around us. And it's
Yeah.
an unanswered question.
Well, I do think you do a really good job to first. I really love the fact that you create you personified the design, you know, the field as a person and organization as if it was like two people like actually discussing. And I do think like you do a really good job to pinpoint at least part of the issue towards the system and the incentives in the system of any organization that is not like even the system is not designed as you mentioned several times in the piece, that it's not designed for care, right? It's designed for something else than you know, being able to take care of whomever we are designing for.
But do we understand the trade-offs? Does the organization really understand the trade-offs of designing for profits or designing for whatever they are doing it versus not designing it for care and love? It often comes back to hurt them in the long run, right? So are they really mute, or I don't know. I mean, what stops them to see those trade-offs?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to interject, but I do feel like some of the elements that we just mentioned, like the incentives are making some of the realization like impossible, right? It's like it becomes difficult to see outside of the metrics and the quarterly KPIs and whatever.
Right. And I think that's what I meant when I said misplaced understanding of incentives.
Yes. Yeah. And I love the little like examples that you you provide. Like Microsoft is taking like a hit in your face, but then like the part of the like I what I feel like was the most emotional element in the like the one that talked to me and hooked me like to the until the end of the piece is the moment where like you position the design persona as a wise. I had this vision in my mind. You know, it's like it's a wise old man taking like the end of the hand of the organization and trying to show like and not really like it tells, but it wants to show as well. And it brings the organization to this museum and this part with the shoe is the one that hooked me like and took me by surprise because it's a simple element that you bring in the story that show what care is and how it materializes, right? I don't know if you can tell a bit more about that.
Well, I think we have been too slow and too repetitive to talk about the role or influence of design in organization success, organization design, organization sentiment, brand sentiment for last 15 years now. Okay. I think I saw similar discussions around the role of design 5 years ago and 10 years ago also, right? So I needed something else, some other vocabulary, some other language, some other mode of imagination to trigger some response to make people really think and take notice of why we are still talking about the value of design after all those years. Okay. And so, I mean, many years ago, in one of my presentations, I was talking about the role of content. And that time I used an analogy of that content also undergoes some emotions. Okay. When a user writes a word in the search field to find some information, just imagine what kind of emotions content might be going through if it is getting lost and
Mm.
if it is not making up to the screen, right? So it's not possible, it's not practically possible, right? But it's just a means to make others think deeply about a message that we want to communicate. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was my whole idea, that okay, let's try to reframe and use some other framing to convey what we have been doing for many years now.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone wants to join in the conversation. Have you anything in mind that you would like to share? Feel free.
I also want to add something.
Yes.
uh,
Go ahead.
I think I don't know why is it that most of the discussions about design or policy or organization behavior and design boil down to leadership. It is not only about leadership, okay? It's about
Mm-hmm.
people, about every other individual or contributor who works in organization, right? We have our capacity, we have our threshold for how far we can be strong and courageous in our conversation or in raising tough questions in an organization, right? That's fine, that's understandable. But there have been a series of instances and the patterns where the individuals, the employees, or the contributors um, may not be using the right framing, or they may not be feeling incentivized to make some better efforts, right? For example, we are still talking about, we still speak in the language of culture, right? It's an organization culture or process doesn't encourage open discussions about design, right?
Mm.
But somewhere I feel that we need new language and new vocabulary to talk about these issues rather than speaking in the language of leadership and culture. Okay, we need some some new framing uh, to make our message more impactful and more influential and more thought provoking or thought inspiring for everybody around us, and not only for the leaders.
Yeah. Yeah. If we it takes more than just the leaders to change the, as you mentioned in the piece as well, like to mention the to to make the organization move and change. Yeah. I see. Chris, you want to say something?
Yes. Um, I love the questions that you're asking, Vinish. I think that those are really provoking. At the same time, I think the challenge that you're up against is that you're operating within a series of nested contexts, and kind of the overall context that's cutting across. I think the direction that you're heading is the kind of imperative to serve capitalism and maximize profit and efficiency. And so those systems that constrain the overall organizations of companies operating in a capitalist context are going to push against kind of the direction that you're moving. But I think that these are important questions. I think that these are, questions that point to the fallacies and the shortcomings of a capitalist system of economic organization.
Well, yes, that's also quite understandable, and I think we cannot really segregate. We cannot define boundaries. That okay, there are certain set of organizations where we should not talk about the value of design because their priorities are different, right? Can we do that? I do not think so. We can do that, but then we should not see design in the in the lens of its responsibility as design, right? Design enables everything else in an organization. Design enables policy, systems, standards, marketing, engineering, of course, right? And if design itself can see it as a support function to enable everything else in an organization, then we might see new bridges and new opportunities to speak about the role of design. Because because then we are not really talking about design, we are speaking about everything else that means success for an organization, whatever it is. Right, Kevin? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's a good framing to see design as infrastructure, I would say.
Yeah.
Yes, and we need to be critical, but as you mentioned as well, we need to make others, and this is where we need to connect to people, make others like to use that opportunity to interact with them, to make them like as critical as we can be, about what we are doing. Like this is one of the way we can influence is using those opportunities to, to make them like to have these kind of discussions that you mentioned several times. So yes, but it needs to be structured to be able to do that, and to create this kind of space is I would say it's one of the difficulties, right? Not all the organizations are ready or capable of letting this kind of space really happen.
Organizations tend to be.
It means we need to try anyway, right? Sorry, Lee. Go ahead, Lee.
Yeah. So organizations are purpose built for whatever their organizing principle is. If we talk about businesses, then we're talking about entities that set up problems so that they can solve them, and to Chris's point, have a capitalistic outcome or a mindset. So we want to gain, we want to make money, and that's not necessarily opposed to design as an imperative, but it can certainly conflict with an end result of design, which is simply movement to a future state in a really distilled fashion. And when those two come into conflict, it kind of ruptures our ability to be that substrate, to be that in-between space that helps people navigate. And there we get some of the additional friction of design being a sub role within an organization, or something that is just sort of tacked on to the side of an organization, and in some of the worst cases subservient to an organization's ulterior motives. So it will be perpetually challenging for design as a means and us as designers to help those organizations find their way. I think that's our underlying principle is wayfinding for people, for peoples, for groups large and small. And sometimes, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I think
No,
I was about to say the same towards the end, that if we sense a conflict, then that is also part of design's job to help the organization avoid reaching that state of conflict. One, and if at all it happens, then we should be clear in our expectations that do we continue to question the role of design in such an organizations because the conflict is not avoidable, or we should empower design and give it the ability to handle that conflict, because to to stay in that state of conflict about the role of design doesn't help design.
I agree entirely, and I'm a proponent of, similar to Victor Papanek, of being able to teach people how to do what it is that we do. Not entirely, but to some degree, so that they might be able to solve their own problems in a much more holistic, if not unified and clear way, rather than sort of running to the citadel of business practice, which oftentimes serves to create friction in order to have some sort of monetary outcome. So it's this conflict of gain and existence, where the idea of gain is simply to have more, where if we're gaining more existence, we're just trying to move into tomorrow. I agree with you on that point, Vinish.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think it's a good time, and thank you a lot, Vinish, for your time being here, your contribution. It was like, I really enjoyed reading your work. It was really good. I propose, like, for the time, the remaining time, maybe we can move to Lee's work contribution. I'll share again my screen, but maybe Lee, you are like, your piece is, like, I would say, introduces a lot of I don't know if heavy concept is the term, but like some complicated ideas, I would say, that are important and really connected to what we just discussed, and point to, like, this idea that organizations are machines of simplifying the reality, right, and taking shortcuts. And you talk about ideology as a way to frame what organizations do. I don't know if you want to jump in and develop a bit on that.
Yeah, shortcut's a good way to frame it. It gets there, I think, maybe with some more verbose, often clunky metaphors of saying or asking, what is a memory, and is it relatable to a person just as it might be an organization? An underlying theory then is organizations behave like people, and if we talk about institutional memory, then maybe one facet of that is that organizations remember like people, and if they remember like people, maybe they remember for the same reasons that people do, and they suffer from the same faulty memory mechanisms that people do, or they default to some of the same biases and stereotypes that people do. And if that's the case, then we should question the frameworks and the rationales that any organization has in place, because they're offsets. You know, we remember things, where we go, names, phone numbers, all of it, because it's easier than having to learn it over and over again. And it's not a new skill. It's certainly brought us with our gargantuan brains comparatively into the now. But our memory is also really, really fuzzy. And if we're asking an organization to essentially have the similar effect that we do as individuals and problem solve, but do it through shortcuts, then chances are organizations are missing out on relevant input, which means their outputs are less relevant. They're just not whole. And they create sort of macro ideologies of how things ought to be, or how things are, or how they should be, as these secondary generations of ideologies that often start from something very, 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 very small. You know, they mutate over time. They mutate time itself. And that was the premise of it. How does an organization remember? And are we affording a substrate that helps them do that well? Can we help them design that? And this is, you know, the second chapter in an earlier chapter where the idea of identity formation for organizations has popped up as a similar corollary to how individuals form identity.
Yeah, and you do actually reframe that as the way like organizations create their operating models and how what they allowed, you know, the kind of things they allow in terms of questions and the problems that they perceive they can solve and stuff like that, right? Like if we connect that to the design part, and there's two phase to what you are discussing, right? There's the how can we design internally the organization, you know, to maybe allow for more and, you know, create more memory or better memory, right? In a sense. But at the same time, there's this other question: is how do we help them like operate like from that standpoint, like being able to reach outside differently? Is that correct?
Very much so, because when we accept that ideology, it's just like we would for any group of people or even ourselves. We turn it into a fixed point in time. We forget it has a range. We create sort of identity-based monoliths that simply aren't real. They might have a lot of truths assigned to them, but those truths themselves are plastic and tied to people. But reality tends to pass them by. And when that happens, we miss out on a lot of the detail that's necessary to see whether or not they're effective. So one of the correlations that's made in there is between the Baddeley and Hitch's working memory model, where the executive function is that either both the end result of the coordination and the coordination itself. And the clunky relationship there was, well, we have people within organizations that are called executives. I think they tend to operate in a very similar fashion. An executive serves as this sort of coordinating effect within an organization. But we laud and applaud an executive function with, you know, stock options and exceptional salaries and all sorts of peripheral fun stuff that the rest of the organization might not necessarily enjoy. And as an ideology, we anticipate that. We say that that is supposed to happen because of their position, rather than how they have been formed or informed over time.
Yeah. Well, I would say also that there's a disconnect, right, between this, like in organization, unlike a body, for instance, where like you could argue that like the sensory part and the motory part are, you know, like in a whole and like do like it's embodied, right? And it's in context. Whereas like in what you're mentioning, like there can be actually a huge disconnect between like this executive kind of decision part and the body, which is the people which are working on actual, problems and within the territory, basically. Like the territory of the executives can be very different in a sense.
Indeed, yeah. And if the correlation is brain and mind, and that's a much longer consciousness discussion.
Yeah.
Bessel van der Kolk's work is mentioned in there, and I know that at least the clinical psych community is torn on his approach, but he makes very relevant points about how psychology clearly affects physiology and vice versa. So we can have damage in an organizational structure that separates, or at least impairs the communication between executive functions and functions that form the executive function. And then those disconnects themselves can become exacerbated. They can cause different physiological, metaphorically, issues within the rest of the body of the organization, to the point where neither talk anymore. But oddly enough, what remains is this premise that an executive function is up somewhere, higher, elevated, and we let that rest. And within a group of people, at some point, somebody has to make a decision. That is an executive function. I mean, imagine people trying to decide where they want to go to dinner together. I had this experience 3 nights ago. The attempt was made to walk 2 blocks versus 3 blocks for different types of food. So I went up to my hotel room, came back down 10 minutes later, and this decision still had not been made. So I think we were all hungry, but for some reason a decision wasn't made, because I have no idea why. I just don't. But there was something within that organization of people that was impairing the ability to simply decide. And there are studies galore on that sort of value congruence within groups of people, or decision making dispersed among groups of people. It is still odd, though, that the same indecisiveness or decisiveness existing within a single individual can exist personified within an entire organization. So the hope then is that maybe we can work with organizations clinically that in the same way that we can with individuals. That'll be a later chapter. I don't know if it's possible. I think it might be.
Thank you, Lee. Anyone want to share their thoughts? Anything? Okay, so don't hesitate to raise your hand if you want to share your thoughts. Thank you, Lee. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for being here with us. Maybe I will share again my screen. I've seen that someone is really interested in the brain interface artifact. So we went through Vinish work and Lee's work, and we won't have time, like given the remaining time we have, to go through all of the rest. But very briefly, there is this one which is quite provocative. Designers Hate Design by Rémi Garcia, who is a French designer. And so you will find inside, I will share the link as well, a French version, but no worries, for English speakers, you have as well an English version at the end. This is interesting because he makes a case about how designers created the situation they are in. Like if we talk about the fact that designers might be replaced within organizations, and the activities that designers do are automatized, and that we actually actively participated in that, contributed to that happening. And he goes through kind of an historical he goes back to the history of design and the practices and how we came to the now, and and also like what we can do about it. So it's really interesting. And we have Diana, who made like a very interesting contribution with the state of design from the future. And the idea is to present. It's like we are receiving a broadcast from possible futures where design has been like transformed into a really politicized tool, and it's actually actively like it's fighting wars, it's participating in rescue of events and stuff like that. And the idea is to create a hypothetical world where some of the aspects that we see now are exacerbated, and she goes in presenting that as a host speaking and providing us with news about this kind of future. So it's really interesting. It's very like a storytelling, also as the format is really like a story. So it's really interesting, and it's funny how it connects to elements that we see today. And the last piece is this artifact I mentioned earlier. So this project is really interesting. Like you have a video as well where Mehmet is presenting the interface and how it works and what was the idea behind. And basically, the main idea was to imagine a kind of interface that is connected to our brain and makes our emotional states visible. And you can actually, and how this can be used to interact with, in that case, some of the AIs or whatever system is embarked in the system. So it's interesting. It's highly experimental, and I find it interesting in the sense that it's the idea of making something as personal and invisible as our emotional state, something we can use to interact with a computer is very interesting, especially nowadays where we interact with chatbots, LLMs, and whatever, where sometimes it is complicated to express what we like. It's a very asymmetric way to express something we want as a result. And it's interesting to say, okay, maybe if we include emotions in the loop, it might add to the context of understanding from the machine. So I think it's a really interesting case. So I will share the link right now. Stop my sharing. I don't know if you want to conclude and anything, if you want to share anything you have in mind, anyone, don't hesitate to do so.
I would add again how important conversations like these are, just broadly, to be able to have this critical thought applied to design. It can't be understated, so I appreciate it. I do have to drop for another meeting, but
Yeah.
wonderful to chat with you all. Some chatted with before, and for those not, it's been a pleasure, truly.
Thank you, Lee.
Take
Thank
care
you very
all.
much. Well, so maybe to conclude then, so this is an exercise we do each year. So don't hesitate to join the community. You can subscribe to on the website. There's a newsletter. We don't publish that often, but like once we have a project, usually we share the project and the ideas and how to participate in the project if you want to. And anyway, we do this exercise every year. So yeah, next year you'll be, if you're interested, you can join. And it's open to everyone. Like, you don't need to be a PhD and whatever to participate. It's really open. We do also have like some events where we do more collaborative work, where we do have workshops formats and stuff like that. And the same, if you are registered to the newsletter, you will receive the information beforehand if you want to participate. We do have also a Slack server, so if you want to connect with other designers, engage in some of the discussions we had today, or you want to bring other things, you have ideas, you have things you want to discuss with others. Really, the point of the community is to connect people from very different fields of design, have discussions, create shared knowledge and understanding. So yeah, so before you go, I will share a link to that as well, so you can join in if you want to. And yeah, and feel free to reach out to me if you want to. I will share, like, you can share your LinkedIn profile if you want. So if you're okay with that, so everyone can connect, because I don't know everyone here. And I think it was interesting to discuss with you guys. Chris, I appreciated that you shared your thoughts, and Ruby as well. If you want to connect, you can share your LinkedIn profile if you want to. Yeah, you wanted to say something, Chris?
No, just thank you. I appreciate you making this an open space. I'm not a professional designer by any stretch, but I am very curious about the design community, and events like this are very inspiring. So I enjoyed it, and thank you for making it possible.
Well, thank you for joining. Then it's really good to have people from outside the community. It's also good to bring new ideas and thoughts. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
Have a good day too. Bye, everyone. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, Kevin, for opening up this platform where we can speak, where we can listen and strengthen our opinions about certain things that bother us and that concern us. And we might get new confidence, new voice, new vocabulary to talk about it at our work.
Well, thank you very much, Vinish, for everything, because you are one of the person that is always there for the community. Who shares so many things with us, with everyone in the design and critical thinking community. So I really appreciate that you are part of it. Thank you very much.
All right. Wish all the best. Thank you, and we'll speak again. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. And thanks for sharing. So I will check the brain-computer interfacing. It's
Yes,
very
don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. And you can reach to Mehmet if you want to, if you're really interested. He's a really open person. He's keen to share whatever project he's working on. If you want, I can also like share with you his I will share with you on LinkedIn if you don't mind, on private message, the link to his website, so you can see what kind of project he does, because he does a lot of things with experimental stuff like that. Thank you very much, Ruby.
thank you. Would you mind me take your 5 extra minutes just on
Yeah.
this?
Let me just stop the recording then.